My name is Stella, I'm 32 years old and I'm a financial analyst in Boston. I used to think I'd found the perfect man to build a happy life with. Ethan, my husband, was someone I met during grad school at business school. We quickly became a great match both in class and in life. Ethan was funny, gentle, and always made me feel safe, like I could rely on him forever. After 3 years of dating, Ethan proposed to me on a lightly rainy afternoon at a park along the Charles River. I remember clearly how he held my hand tightly and said, "Stella, I want to go through every up and down in life with you." It might sound old-fashioned, but I cried, believing I had truly found someone who would never hurt me. We had a small wedding at a lakeside cabin on Lake Winnipesaukee with just close friends and both our families. I didn't care for anything fancy, just the sense of warmth and sincerity was enough. After our honeymoon in Colorado, I was ready to start a new chapter of life, building a home with Ethan. But just a week after we got back, Ethan looked at me with a hesitant expression. "Stella, I want to ask you something. My mom's health hasn't been great lately. She's been living alone since my dad passed away when I was 14. Would you consider quitting your job and moving in with her? We could save a lot, and I'd feel more at ease." I was speechless for a few seconds. I loved my job. It wasn't just about the income, it was where I could grow and express myself. Still, I understood Ethan's situation. He was an only child and his mother, Linda, had raised him on her own. I'd heard the stories of how tough it was after her husband died. I wasn't heartless. And if this would give him peace of mind, I was willing to consider it. "I'm not sure I can quit completely, but I'll try to request working remotely for a while," I said, trying to keep my tone gentle. "If your mom needs help, then we'll take care of her together." Ethan smiled softly and hugged me. "Thank you. You always make me feel like the luckiest man." 3 weeks later, we moved into his family's old house in the suburbs of Newton. It was a 2-story home with a classic look, a wide porch and a front yard full of lavender. From the outside, it looked like the perfect place to start a family. Linda greeted us with a stiff hug and a faint smile. "Welcome home," she said, but when she looked at me, there was a flicker of something unfriendly in her eyes. I wasn't sure if I imagined it, but the uneasiness settled in my chest. We hadn't even unpacked everything when she asked, "Stella, do you know how to make beef stew?" "Ethan loves that dish." I smiled. "I've never tried, but I can learn." She didn't respond, just gave a faint hum and turned away. That night, as we lay down in the upstairs bedroom, Ethan turned to take my hand. "Don't worry, my mom's a little tough, but she'll get used to you." I didn't say anything. A strange feeling crept over me, like I was stepping into a place where I didn't belong. But I told myself everything would be fine, I just had to try a little harder. I didn't know that this was only the beginning. The first morning I woke up at my mother-in-law's house, I heard footsteps coming from the creaky wooden stairs. I looked at the clock and was startled. It was only 5 a.m. I was still half asleep when Linda's sharp voice rang from the kitchen. "Stella, you're up? Go make breakfast. Ethan likes sunny-side-up eggs with toast. And don't burn it." I quickly threw on a robe, washed my face and headed downstairs. Linda was standing at the counter, holding a coffee cup like she'd been up since midnight. She didn't look at me, just gave a slight nod when I entered. I grabbed the ingredients and tried to cook in silence, but no matter what I did, she found something to criticize. "That butter you're using is cheap, you know. Ethan will get a stomachache." "You don't know to toast the bread before making the eggs? Who taught you to cook?" I gripped the spoon tightly, took a deep breath to stay calm. I wasn't quick-tempered and I always believed I could change the atmosphere of a home with patience and kindness. But Linda never gave me the chance. When Ethan came down for breakfast, her tone changed instantly. "Sweetheart, I made your eggs just the way you like. Eat it while it's hot." She pulled out a chair for him and glanced at me with a mocking look. I said nothing. I had made the breakfast, but she took all the credit. Ethan smiled faintly, not sensing the tension that filled the kitchen. The days that followed only got worse. Every morning I was woken before dawn to cook, clean, and do laundry. No matter how carefully I did everything, Linda always found a flaw. If I mopped the floor, she'd run her hand along the corners and shake her head. If I did the laundry, she'd inspect each towel like I was a trainee at a 5-star hotel. One day, while I was hanging clothes outside, she stood behind me and said loudly, "Stella, you don't have a job, so at least do the housework properly. Ethan works hard and you're not contributing anything. I turned around and looked straight at her, trying to stay calm. I still work remotely, ma'am. My company allows online work. Linda laughed, but it wasn't friendly at all. Online? Sitting at a computer scrolling around? That's not a real job. I clenched my fists until my knuckles turned white, but I stayed silent. I started to feel suffocated. This house that once seemed so warm now felt like a giant iron cage. Every word, every glance from Linda made me feel small and out of place. Even private moments became rare. Once, while I was reading in our room, she barged in without knocking and said coldly, "This room used to be Ethan's. You're just staying here temporarily." I bit my lip. That wasn't a hint anymore. She wanted me to know I wasn't welcome. I used to think Ethan would be the mediator, the one to smooth things over. But he didn't seem to notice anything unusual. When I told him I felt disrespected, Ethan simply smiled. "Yeah, Mom's strict, but she means well. Just try to adjust a little." Adjust. That word rang like an authoritarian reminder. I had to change. I had to endure. Just because I agreed to live here? I started feeling exhausted, physically and emotionally. I had trouble sleeping, often waking up in the middle of the night with an anxious, indescribable feeling. One time I overheard Linda whispering on the phone in the kitchen, "This girl's no help at all. If Ethan would just listen to me, she wouldn't even be here." I gripped my blanket tightly, tears silently slipping down my cheeks. But I still didn't give up. I've never been one to surrender easily. I told myself I needed more time. Just a little more. And things would get better. I had no idea what lay ahead was far more unpredictable. One October evening, as rain gently tapped on the bedroom window, I sat at my desk, eyes glued to my laptop screen with flickering stock charts. The desk lamp cast a soft golden glow on my notebook filled with rows of calculations. I carefully placed a buy order at the last minute and exhaled quietly. Contrary to what my mother-in-law believed, I wasn't useless or freeloading like she constantly said. In fact, I was making over $40,000 a month through online stock trading, a skill I had quietly honed back when I worked at an investment firm. After moving in with Linda, I had switched to working remotely, then gradually transitioned to personal investing full-time. The surprising thing was, the farther I got from the office, the more money I made. But I never told anyone in this house, not because I was ashamed, but because I wanted to hold on to the little piece I had left for myself. Every time Linda scolded me for not having a job or just sitting around in my room, I just smiled and quietly closed the door. If she knew I was the one secretly paying the utility bills, stocking the fridge with groceries, and even helping Ethan pay off his student loans, would she still look at me like I was a burden? I used to believe that if I gave my all for this family, they would see my worth. But I was wrong. One evening, while I was reviewing my investment portfolio, Ethan walked into the room with a tension in his face I hadn't seen before. I turned around and closed my laptop. "You're home early?" Ethan didn't answer right away. He sat down on the bed and put his hand to his forehead. "Stella, I have to tell you something." I held my breath, sensing something was off. "I was laid off 3 weeks ago." I blinked. "What?" Ethan lowered his head. "The company had layoffs. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to worry." Everything in my head flipped upside down. "So all this time, you've been leaving the house in the morning to go where?" "The public library," he sighed. "I've been going there to job search, send out applications, but nothing yet. I'm sorry." I stood up and walked to the window, feeling both stunned and disappointed. So I wasn't just the only one earning money in this house. I was the only one actually working. "And your mom?" I turned around, my voice tight. "Does she know?" Ethan shook his head. "I was afraid she'd be disappointed. She still thinks I'm the financial provider." I let out a bitter laugh. "No, she's not disappointed, because in her eyes, the useless one in this house is me." We were quiet for a while. I knew Ethan wasn't a bad person, but his lack of honesty made it hard to trust him the way I used to. "Do you know what your mom has said to me?" I asked, locking eyes with him. "That I'm a freeloader, that I should know my place and not ask for too much, that I'm lucky to live here." Ethan kept his head down, silent. I took out my phone, opened my finance app and showed him a summary chart. This was my income last month, I paid the mortgage, the gas, water, and electricity bills. I bought the groceries, covered tuition for the Spanish class your mom is taking. I don't need anyone to support me, Ethan. I never have. Ethan looked stunned. I knew you were doing well, but I didn't realize it was this much, he said quietly. I'm sorry I made you carry all this alone. I didn't respond. Part of me wanted to forgive him, but another part felt like a crack had formed in our relationship, a quiet fracture spreading deeper. Not because he lost his job, but because he let me endure everything while knowing the truth. The next morning, Linda still knocked on our door at 5 a.m. Stella, are you up? I don't hear anyone in the kitchen. Sleeping in again, huh? I opened the door, looked her straight in the eyes, and for the first time, I didn't smile. Ms. Linda, I said firmly, I'm not someone who sits around or relies on anyone. If you want to talk, please come to the kitchen after I finish my client meeting with Europe. She froze, caught off guard, and before she could respond, I closed the door. Inside, a decision was quietly forming, and this time, I didn't plan on staying silent. That morning, I was in a video meeting with a partner in Zurich when I heard pots and pans clanging downstairs. I quickly muted my mic and paused the camera to go check. When I walked into the kitchen, Linda was standing by the gas stove, holding a stainless steel kettle. Her face was scrunched, her foot tapping hard on the floor. Didn't you hear me? I told you 3 times. There's no sugar in the coffee, she shouted, her tone completely out of patience. I took a deep breath to stay calm. I'm in a meeting. I'll be down when I'm done. I told you that last night. She stared at me. What kind of meeting? You're home all day. Who are you even meeting with? Putting on a show for what, huh? I turned to walk away when I suddenly heard the kettle whistling. Before I could react, a stream of hot water splashed in my direction. I jerked to the side just in time, but it still hit my left arm and soaked part of my blouse. Ah! I cried out instinctively, a burning pain shooting down from my elbow to my wrist. The mug she had been holding crashed to the floor and shattered, but her eyes showed no remorse. Maybe now you'll learn to respect the elders in this house, she said coldly. I couldn't believe what had just happened. It wasn't just dangerous, it was chillingly cruel. My whole body trembled, not just from the pain, but from the sheer insult of it all. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just stood there silent, like someone who had fallen into a deep abyss. The smell of hot water mixed with metal from the kettle still lingered in the air. When Ethan walked into the kitchen, he saw me sitting at the dining table with a cold towel wrapped around my arm. The floor was littered with shards of ceramic and spilled water. He looked around, confused. What happened? I looked up, my voice calm and steady in a way that startled even me. You should ask your mother. Linda stood by the fridge, arms crossed, face unmoved. The girl was being disrespectful, that's all. Ethan looked at me, then at the red burn on my arm. He was quiet for a few seconds, then stepped closer. Oh my God. Are you okay? Do you need to see a doctor? I stood up, pulled my wedding ring off my finger and set it on the table. No. What I need is to leave this house. Ethan panicked. What are you talking about? I've had enough. I can't keep living in a place where I'm treated like an outsider, insulted, doubted, and now scalded with hot water. Lyndon scoffed. That's what you get for being disrespectful. I looked at her, there was no anger in my eyes anymore, just cold clarity. I wasn't disrespectful, I was defending myself. I went upstairs and packed my things. The wedding photos I once cherished were now carefully wrapped and placed at the bottom of the suitcase. My notebooks, laptop, and work gear, the things that truly kept me going, were packed with care. When I came downstairs with my suitcase, Ethan blocked the doorway. Stella, don't do this, Mom will apologize. I shook my head. No, Ethan. I've given your mom so many chances. And you stayed silent through all of it. He lowered his head, speechless. I walked out of that house without looking back. It was still raining outside, cold drops falling on my hair and face. But they weren't colder than what I had endured these past 6 months. When I arrived at my parents' house in Portland, my mom opened the door with a startled look. Stella? You didn't call. I didn't answer. I just walked in, hugged her tightly, and cried for the first time in weeks. In her arms, I finally felt safe. No cold stares, no sharp words, just the warmth of family, the kind I had almost forgotten. That night, I opened my laptop as usual, but this time not for work. I typed a brief email and sent it to a lawyer a close friend had once recommended. Subject: divorce consultation. I knew there would be challenges ahead, but I had left the place that hurt me. And for the first time in months, I felt like I'd just done something right. I left Linda's house on a drizzly morning, and for the next 4 weeks my phone was eerily silent. No texts, no calls from Ethan. Even though my mind had prepared for the worst, my heart still ached every time the doorbell rang. Hoping for something, anything, a word of apology, a sign of care, or at the very least, the presence of a real husband. But nothing came. My parents were incredibly patient. My mom cooked all my favorite meals, and my dad was always ready to drive me anywhere I needed, even if it was just the local coffee shop for a change of scenery. I threw myself back into work almost immediately, using time and stock charts to fill the void inside me. The money kept rolling in, but it couldn't mask the deep disappointment I felt over a marriage I had once believed in so completely. Exactly 1 month after I left, the doorbell rang at 7 a.m. Right when I usually got up to monitor the European market. I checked the security camera and froze. Ethan and Linda were standing at the gate of my parents' house. Linda had her arms crossed, her face clearly irritated. Ethan looked thinner than before, his hands in the pockets of his jacket, avoiding the camera's gaze. I opened the door and stepped onto the porch. "Stella," Ethan spoke first, his voice hesitant. We came to talk." "I don't think there's anything left to say," I replied, calm but firm. Linda stepped forward, her lips tight before saying something I could hardly believe. "I've decided to forgive you. Leaving the house was wrong, but I'm the bigger person. I won't hold it against you." I raised an eyebrow. "Forgive me?" She nodded like she was granting a favor. "Yes. You can come back. But this time I expect you to know your responsibilities. I won't bring up the past again." I stayed quiet for a few seconds, then turned to Ethan. "You're not going to say anything?" He avoided my eyes. "Mom's willing to compromise. I think we should let the past go and start fresh." A dry laugh escaped my throat. "Start fresh? Ethan, you let me walk away without a single word for an entire month. Where were you while I was hurting, physically and emotionally?" Linda scoffed. "Don't be so emotional, Stella. A woman should learn to endure. I was scolded by my mother-in-law too, but I didn't run away like you." I ignored her and looked straight at Ethan. "Did you tell your mom about losing your job yet?" The air thickened instantly. Linda turned to Ethan, stunned. "What? Unemployed, Ethan?" Ethan bit his lip, his eyes drifting. "Mom? I was going to tell you later." "He's been unemployed for 2 months, Ms. Linda," I added. "And the person covering all the household expenses, including your daily vitamins, was me." Linda's jaw dropped. "You're lying." I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app and held it out. "Here's the transaction history. You can see it all. Utility payments, groceries, Ethan's student loan." "And you? The one who splashed hot water on me and called me useless?" Linda's face turned red, her voice shaking. I didn't know." Ethan stepped forward awkwardly, reaching for my hand. "Stella, please, just give me another chance." I pulled my hand back. "You've had hundreds of chances, Ethan. And you didn't take a single one. You stayed silent while your mom disrespected me, and when I was struggling alone, you chose to stand aside. I'm not returning to that silence." Linda suddenly raised her voice. "You think you're so great, you're just some woman staring at a computer all day. Men are supposed to be the providers." I smiled, not hurt anymore. "Maybe that's why your whole family is standing outside my parents' gate." I walked back into the house and gently closed the door behind me. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to cry. And yet, I had never felt more heard. I don't know how long they stayed outside after I left, but I didn't care anymore. In that moment, I understood this. The people who truly love you won't leave you alone when you need them most. And those who let you suffer don't deserve a way back. That night I sat alone in the home office at my parents' house, the glow from my desk lamp reflecting off a crisp white sheet of paper, the completed divorce form, awaiting only Ethan's signature. I had read every line carefully, as if rewriting the ending to a story I once thought would last forever. I wasn't angry. I just felt empty. The time for hoping for an apology, a caring message, or even the slightest remorse had passed. All I needed now was closure. 3 days later, I met Ethan at a small cafe in Westbrook, the same place we used to go during the early days of our relationship. When I arrived, he was already seated at an outdoor table, turning a now cold cup of coffee in his hands, his eyes lost. "Stella," he said when he saw me, like he was looking at a stranger. I placed my bag on the chair, pulled out a folder. No small talk, no hesitation. "This is the divorce agreement. I've signed it, now it's just your turn." Ethan stared at me, stunned. He didn't touch the paper, just looked at it like it was something he couldn't comprehend. "Wait, you really want to end this?" His voice cracked. "Why so fast?" I exhaled slowly, trying to remain composed. "Because I don't trust you anymore, Ethan. Not just because your mom treated me horribly, but because you let it happen in silence. You knew what I was going through and you did nothing. You didn't choose me, you didn't protect me." Ethan lowered his head, his hands clenched. "I know I was wrong, but it's not too late." "You're right," I interrupted. "It's not too late to end it." He still didn't sign. I could see the wheels in his mind turning, searching for a way out of the reality he helped create. Finally he looked up, his voice trembling. "Did my mom really pour hot water on you?" I looked at him, calmly. "You don't believe me?" "It's not that. It's just, she's never done anything like that to anyone." "Well, maybe I'm the first." He didn't say anything else. I slid the pen across the table to him. "We've both changed, Ethan, but I don't want to stay in a relationship where silence weighs heavier than words." At that moment, Ethan finally picked up the pen. He didn't look at me, only at the document, as if it were written in a foreign language. At last, he signed. I gathered the papers, placed them back in the folder, and stood up. "I don't want money. I don't want assets. I just want my freedom." He nodded, no objections. I think he understood, even if it was too late. I walked away feeling oddly light, not because everything ended smoothly, but because I had done what I believed was right. I'm not the first person to choose divorce, and I won't be the last, but for me, it was a way to begin again, with myself. 2 weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Linda. "I just wanted to say that I know I crossed a line," she said, her voice no longer sharp. "But Stella, family shouldn't fall apart over a few misunderstandings." I was silent for a moment, then replied, "A misunderstanding is when people hurt each other unintentionally. But you did it on purpose." "I'm living alone now," she said softly. "Ethan left too. This isn't how I thought things would turn out." I sighed lightly. "If you need help, you should reach out to your son. As for me, I'm no longer part of that family." I hung up, then blocked the number. I didn't feel anger, just the simple desire never to go back. Divorce isn't always the heartbreaking end people think it is. For me, it was freedom. In a world where I was misunderstood, I chose to understand myself. 3 weeks after Ethan signed the divorce papers, I got another call from an unknown number. No name saved, no message left. I knew exactly who it was, but I hesitated before picking up. "Stella, it's me, Linda." Her voice was raspy, lacking the usual sharpness. I stayed silent, waiting for her to continue. "Can you help, just a little? The power's out in the house. No more gas either. Ethan's gone and I don't know how to manage." Part of me felt pity, but the rest, the part she scalded with hot water, insulted and hurt without a single apology, rose up stronger. "I'm sorry, but I can't help anymore," I said calmly. "You should call Ethan. He's your son." Linda said nothing. I heard a soft sigh on the other end, then she hung up without another word. Right after that, I blocked the number, just like the way I had shut the door behind me the day I left that house. No anger, no regrets. Just a clean break. I also erased all contact with Ethan. No emails, no texts, no social media. My new life had no space for the things that once dragged me to rock bottom. As time passed, I poured my energy into work, expanded my investment portfolio, and took part in several online financial seminars. Every morning I woke up early to follow the European markets, and in the evenings I sipped herbal tea in a softly lit living room. My life now was quiet, organized, and completely under my control. No orders, no belittling. One early spring afternoon, as I waited to board a flight to Seattle for a conference at Logan Airport, my phone buzzed with a new email. The subject simply read, "I'm sorry." I opened it, unsurprised to see Ethan's name. "Stella, I've done a lot of thinking. I know I was wrong, and there's no excuse. I just started working at a medical equipment factory. It's not glamorous, but it's stable. My mom's living on her own now, but she hasn't changed much. I'm not writing this to ask you to come back. I just want to say, thank you for carrying everything. And I'm sorry for not being there when you needed me." I read the whole email but felt nothing. No sadness, no anger, no regret. Just the quiet closure of a chapter. I hit delete, put in my earbuds, and rolled my suitcase onto the plane like someone walking into the future. 2 months later, while attending an investment forum in Chicago, I met Daniel, a guest speaker 4 years older than me and the strategy director of a venture capital fund. He wasn't flashy or boastful, but there was something captivating and sharp in the way he spoke. We talked after the event, initially just about market trends and green investing, but gradually the conversation shifted to favorite books, solo travel, and how we'd both made mistakes in past relationships. "I used to think the more control I had, the less I'd get hurt," I admitted. Daniel gave a small smile. "I used to believe I could change someone if I just loved them enough. Big mistake." We didn't rush anything. Simple coffee dates, thoughtful, unhurried messages. He never asked about my past, only about what kind of flowers I liked or whether I'd ever wanted to see the northern lights in Iceland. One evening, as I was getting ready to go live for a webinar, Daniel sent me a bouquet of lavender with a small card tucked inside. "You don't need to control anything, just be yourself." I stared at the card for a long time. I don't know what the future holds. I'm not dreaming of a wedding nor placing big expectations. But what I do know is that I no longer have to walk through the dark alone. For the first time since everything, I could smile without forcing it. That marriage taught me that love cannot survive without respect and mutual care. I once believed that if I tried hard enough, everything would turn out fine, but no one should have to sacrifice their self-worth to hold on to a relationship. Divorce didn't break me. On the contrary, it was the turning point that helped me truly understand my own value. Now, I live a life I chose for myself, not to please anyone else. And most importantly, I've learned to love myself first. What do you think about Stella's choice? Would you have done things differently in her situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt and powerful family stories.